Let me begin with a huge salute to the entrepreneurial spirit of the Bansal boys, that's Sachin and Binny and their team of flipsters, for miraculously succeeding against a hostile government which handcuffed and threw them to the wolves of competition. I must deconstruct the lie which is being peddled quite aggressively by our government and our media. Walmart's acquisition of Flipkart has triggered $16 billion as the largest foreign direct investment in India. Yes, it's foreign because the asset being sold is a Singapore company, not an Indian one. No, it's not direct because cash is not coming into the company but going out to shareholders. In classic stock market terminology, it's not a primary, that is FDI, but an indirect secondary, that is FII market transaction. Heck, it's not even an investment because the dollars are not creating any new asset. Instead, these are being used to purchase the old shares of existing investors. And now to the biggest untruth, that all of this moolah is coming in India. No, sir. Close to $14 billion out of the $16 billion could be flowing out to Japan, America, China, and South Africa. Only a measly couple of $1 billion could be working their way back into India. And yet, we are the fools who are dancing. The brutally honest headline should be, India impoverished as Flipkart, the e-commerce Kohinoor from the digital colony, is sold, cash salted away in foreign investment empires. Unfortunately, Flipkart was born with the original sin. In October 2007, two bright-eyed young IITians launched Flipkart, a simple website then of book titles, and started delivering to buyers, going door-to-door on two-wheelers. They shipped only 20 orders in their first year. Before long, private equity knocked with tens of millions of dollars in investment. But there was a problem. India had banned foreign direct investment, FDI, in online retail. It was a foolish, outdated policy, but it was the damn law. The boys knew that if the ownership stayed Indian, they would have to rig a new ruse every day to dodge the bureaucrats. So in October 2011, they flipped the shareholding into a new Singapore company called Flipkart Private Limited. In one swift hack, India's policymakers had outlawed their most promising tech and commerce startup. Indian capital now could no longer invest in an asset which would derive its entire value from India. Now tell me, have you ever encountered a more absurd, a more value-destroying policy architecture? Before long, Flipkart's woes spilled over into the courts. Traditional trade associations sued the government alleging circumvention of FDI rules. The Delhi High Court ordered an investigation into 21 e-commerce companies, with Flipkart its prime target. Just see how perverse policies kill Indian entrepreneurship. About the time that the Bansal boys launched Flipkart, other first-generation founders were springing up in Silicon Valley and Shanghai. A chap called Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook. Jeff Bezos began tiny new adventures at Amazon. Jack Ma launched a quaintly named operation called Alibaba. And Pony Ma got Tencent off the ground. Now here's the tragedy. While the Indian government has virtually forced the Bansal boys to sell their dream for a relatively paltry $21 billion, the American and Chinese governments have abetted Jeff, Mark, Jack and Pony to continue controlling their ambitions in hot pursuit of $1 trillion of value. Now, 21 billion may sound like a lot of cash to idea-starved, small-thinking Indians, but frankly, it is trivial for global capital. As Indians, we are just often happy with what we've achieved. We never get exercised about what we could have done. Imagine if our policymakers had taken a very different track, allowed them to have special controlling rights, votes on their equity holdings, allowed them to list on NASDAQ without insisting on an Indian IPO, not outlawed them from India, forcing them to migrate to Singapore, not threatened them with criminal prosecution for doing a terrific job, created a globally benchmarked architecture of e-commerce in India. Now, if all of this had been done, Flipkart's founders would today have been in substantial control of their brave enterprise. Their eyes would be fastened on creating a $500 billion company, not a $21 billion sellout, a $500 billion company by 2025. And their names may have been taken in the same breath as Jeff, Mark, Jack and Pony. Alas, it was not to be. Shame on you, Government of India, both UPA and NDA.